Next, we are going to hear from representatives from Michigan's Quality of Life agencies. Andrew Bahrou, the Lake Erie coordinator at EGLE, Tammy Newcomb, the Senior Executive Assistant Director at MDNR, and Michelle Selzer, the Western Lake Erie Basin Strategist at MDARD. And I will pull up Andrew's slides. He is going first.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for amazing presentations and panelists today. So let's give everybody another quick round. My part is going to be pretty quick, thanks to my colleagues ahead of me this morning who covered a lot of the big ticket items for EGLE. But I will do a quick recap on those to touch on some of the bigger things for our domestic action plan moving forward. And yeah, no worries. And I think we heard pretty clearly from Phil and Majid on the success of our point source program to under the Clean Water Act and through our NPDES permit program to really reduce phosphorus loads from our wastewater treatment plants. What are you doing? With recent loads from the Detroit looking at about 50% of what they were in 2008. That said, we're not losing sight of further enhancements on point sources. So moving forward, like Phil mentioned, we are going to expand the focus from 4 key facilities to 25 majors in the basin, and with the goal of achieving the 0.5 milligrams per liter effluent limits as called for in the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. And that will be integrated into the permit reissuance cycle that takes about 5 years to roll out. And we believe that these levels can be achieved using low-cost operational modifications as opposed to expensive capital improvements. We also heard from Mike this morning about our monitoring efforts, and monitoring came up several times throughout the day, the importance of it. We have 4 Huck 12 watersheds that we're monitoring that represent a different range of landscapes that will help give us an idea of how different land uses are responding to conservation practices. That's the hope. We understand and appreciate that we're in the early stages of this process. We have close to 3 years of water year data, but that we need to be in this for the long haul. That's what we heard over and over. So we're going to be working to maintain those with time. And then as Mike described, we're looking to expand on that with partnerships with MSU, Institute for Water Research, the MDARD Alliance for the Great Lakes. Our partners at Limnotech are exploring all opportunities to expand on our monitoring efforts. We heard from Thad and Peter's work, who have developed the agricultural inventory process that has greatly enhanced our watershed management planning efforts for getting more specificity on where to ensure practices are achieving the biggest bang for the buck. I want to reiterate the importance of the, that those kinds of planning just become another plan or book on the shelf if we don't have partners working locally to actually do something with those. And we heard from Tom this morning. So we really appreciate partnerships with the conservation districts and others who are putting those kind of resources to use. We also have our annual request for proposals in our non-point source program to where we are prioritizing the Western Basin, and we regularly fund projects there. These are some examples of practices that have been put in place over the last 5 years, and with the emphasis being on nutrient management, soil erosion, increasing soil health, and reducing and treating runoff. Keep in mind, though, that our overall annual budget statewide for this program is about $3.5 million. With Clean Michigan Initiative funding spending down, that's going to probably look closer to $2.5 million annually. So while we can continue to prioritize Western Basin, that's still a relatively small amount compared to, it's a contribution, but a small amount relative to what's really needed there. I'll just mention a couple other things. The department was allocated $35 million to develop a statewide failing septic loan program. Through a competitive process, Michigan Saves was the organization that was chosen to deliver this. They, you might know them from energy efficiency loan program, so they have a goal of launching that early next year. We also continue to support and promote green stormwater infrastructure, which is mostly going to see improvements in our urban areas. We have ongoing projects in that space, as well as others that we're actively seeking for new ones. As an example, I think Katie and Bailey from SEMCOG might be here could tell you more about their GLRI project that is implementing a green stormwater infrastructure on municipal properties throughout their footprint. And I'll just close by saying that on behalf of the department, we'd like to acknowledge and thank you all for being here and participating today, to all the speakers, the panelists, the advisory group, science panelists, all of our partners, academic contractors who are helping us, and other organizations to really work toward a drinkable, swimmable, and fishable Lake Erie. We recognize that this is a complex and important issue that affects most, if not all of us, that it's not unique to the western basin of Lake Erie, that it's happening in other parts of the state, country, and world, and that it's really going to take collective efforts to solve that, and we're committed to providing the, working with the tools, the programs, and the resources that we have to be part of that solution. So we also support the engagement with the advisory group and the science panel and the public to, as we look for collective ways to protect and restore Lake Erie, as well as the contributing tributary waters and lands. So thanks again.
All right, Michelle, I think it's good that the MDARD's wrapping up on this one today, because I don't have a single chart or pie chart or graphic or anything like that. We're just going to look at some pictures. So DNR's role in this whole domestic action plan thing has been, we've been there from the beginning. We're not a regulator, but the results of what happens on the landscape are so important to what we do, which my father-in-law, when I tried to explain to him what I did as a fisheries scientist, said, "Oh, you manage other people's hobby," right? So, but seriously, the anglers, the people who recreate boating on Lake Erie, the beachgoers, we have several beaches along Lake Erie, all of those folks, the end users for that Lake Erie really rely on the success of what we do as we move forward in the future. So DNR's role first is to be a good neighbor. So one of the things that we'll be doing this year is taking a look at all of our property and all of the land practices that we have in the Lake Erie Basin and making sure that we're not somehow inadvertently contributing to the problems of phosphorus delivery to Lake Erie. So we're going to take a hard look at that. That's our campgrounds, that's our public lands, all that stuff. We are deeply invested in wetland restoration and landscape management. We always have been in terms of wetlands, but this year, thanks to some partner support, we've got about $14 million to play with. We've got the $10 million ARPA funds. We've got $2 million in ongoing wetland investment funds for the DNR now this year in our budget. And then we have an additional about 2.8 in funding for the pilot project that we're trying to get off the ground. So for the first time ever, we actually have some real capacity as an agency to make some work happen. And of that $10 billion, as Callie said earlier, we want to put $4 million out on the ground with either communities or private landowners to help get some more of these wetlands going in the basin. And then we plan to be a great partner and collaborate on science. And so with some trepidation, I say this. I'm a big football fan this year because after all, the Lions, right? So last night I was watching after the game and there's this thing called the tush push, right? So who's heard of the tush push? Oh, come on. All right, so it's Philadelphia, right, that does this? So what they do is they line up all behind the guy with the ball and then the whole team like pushes him forward, right? And this works every time. They've got something like a 90% success rate. Well, the DNR is sort of in that role with our partner agencies, with DARD and with EGLE. We are standing behind there ready to do that tush push to get us across the line. So it's the end of the day. So some of the pictures that I have for us, again, we're looking at this demonstration project that we're doing. What we're trying to do is show folks, hey, this is how we do it. We're going to achieve nutrient reduction. We are going to create critical wetland habitat in this part of the basin. We don't have a lot of public land in this part of the basin, or in this part of the state either. We are seeking a site of flow conversion, meaning we're looking for a place where the flow comes together. We believe we've found that. We are targeting the Upper Maumee or River Raisin watershed. We found that as well. And then we believe we have some willing partners at the table for whom we are so appreciative. So we hope to get that wetland project moving forward here pretty quickly so that we'll have something to talk about and report out on. Now, I went through some slides, some pictures that we had, and one of the things we often hear is, well, we don't want to do a wetland because we don't want to take land out of production. And I really wish we could find another statement for that because it really isn't land out of production. It's land dedicated to serving a purpose on the landscape for ecosystem goods and services that help out humans at the end of the day. We've got wildlife, we've got fish that are benefiting too, but in this part of the basin, these projects right now, we're really looking to help us out as a matter of water quality. So places like this that are hard to get into at the beginning of the year, they're gonna require a lot of investment in tiling. Places like this that we can go to and say, is there a better use for this? Is there a better ecosystem functional use that we can get out of these areas? And this was, I don't even know where this is, but this is one of the results of some of the wetland projects that have occurred. And then, of course, there's all these other great benefits, which we believe in the DNR. Anybody know what that butterfly is? I was going to look it up and I forgot. We believe that places like this give us a better quality of life. And so tomorrow, I'm going to stump a little bit for the, tomorrow one of the sessions is on building wetlands. We want to understand the hurdles to landowners and others in thinking about wetlands and development of wetlands. We do want you to take a picture of this slide and share with your colleagues the ability to be on this webinar with you to find out how you can get access to some of that $4 million for building a wetland. So. And in my closing comments, I'm just going to say, so has anybody here read A Pirate Looks at 40? Jimmy Buffett, again. Sort of my scripture. Anybody here read that? Oh my goodness, it's a good one. Check it out from the library. So imagine my surprise as I'm reading through Jimmy Buffett's philosophy on life and getting older and things like that. And I forget what chapter, it's in the middle of the book, and up pops this reference to Lake Erie. And Jimmy Buffett actually referred to the first round of biologists, I think, when Lake Erie was dead and Cuyahoga River was burning and all that sort of stuff. He referred to us as heroes. Heroes. So let's all in this room agree we're going to be heroes for the Lake Erie Basin. So thanks, guys. Thanks for your putting up with me today.
All right, I'm back. Thank you all for sticking with us this afternoon. We still have a pretty big crowd here, so that tells me something, and I really appreciate you all taking time out of your day today to spend with us, to offer us the opportunity to hear from our science panel. The networking was really fantastic. I hope you all have met someone new and are continuing to commit to this process that we're really starting to just begin in terms of our community partnerships and engagement. So I've been asked to just kind of wrap up and give a little bit of a high-level overview of what the department's been up to in this last 5 years and what our path is forward, and give a little bit of feedback on the science panel report and some of the advisory group recommendations as well. So from an MDARD perspective, our current strategy, and we're certainly going to be moving forward with implementing new and innovative programs this next year. But just wanted to touch base on the fact that we are excited to continue our federal partnerships. We've worked to reestablish the Michigan Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. It used to be just for the River Basin, and now it's for the entire western Lake Erie Basin. So this is going to afford producers throughout the basin more opportunities to really focus on water quality types of practices. We have continued to partner with Indiana, Ohio on a second round of the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. So this is a program that applies across all 3 states, and this is the second round. So we're excited to continue that partnership with our collaborative agreement partners. And this was something we often get questions about, what are we doing with the other states? And so this is a really good example of that. And we also want to continue in partnership with our conservation districts to support other Farm Bill programs being implemented in the basin, as well as supporting the Michigan Agricultural Environmental Assurance Program, or MEAP. We have lots of opportunity there to improve the program moving forward, and we're interested in your ideas. Also, just in terms of what we have new since the DAP was let out, we are full partners with EGLE on the Agricultural Conservation Planning Framework planning part of things, but we're really going to be moving into doing some strategic planning with some of the outputs of that information moving forward. And finally, we're also very interested in the water quality monitoring, as Director Boring mentioned over lunch. So we're looking for ways, in addition to partnering with EGLE on the existing monitoring network, we're also looking for opportunities to expand the network in the basin. And this will be a big part of our water quality specialist that's in the process of being hired right now. And so across, this cross-agency collaboration, I think, will go a long way towards, filling our monitoring gaps, and it will also help inform our water quality monitoring strategy that was mentioned earlier today. And just want to give a shout out and thanks to the Whitmer administration for the ongoing investments in her bipartisan strategies budgets to make this kind of work possible. Something new for us and kind of hot off the press, not reflected in our current DAP, but we have just recently entered into a grant agreement with the Alliance for the Great Lakes, and we're embarking upon a project where we're going to be able to get a better handle on what is the cost to comply to meet our 40% reduction. And so you also heard this this afternoon from Director Boring, we're going to be working to tackle the non-point source challenge head on. So progress moving forward is going to take a change in our approach to delivering conservation, a commitment to do more research, increasing our investments in monitoring, supporting and enhancing our existing on-the-ground technical support. But at the end of the day, we really need to better understand the scale of the conservation actions that's needed in our watersheds. We also, we're looking forward to working with the Alliance for the Great Lakes to answer a set of important questions, such as what are the types of stacked conservation practices needed to effectively address the known resource concerns on the landscape? And how can we do that in a holistic way? Where can these practices be placed on the landscape to achieve improved water quality outcomes? And what are the estimated phosphorus load reductions if these practices were fully implemented? So this effort will, for the first time, also give us a better understanding of how long it may take us to achieve our 40% reduction goals. And so we look forward to providing these findings in our 2023 DAP update and working with partners, many of you in this room, to use this information in our strategic planning efforts moving forward. So in addition to our ongoing programs, the state has been really ramping up and building our capacity at the state and local levels. So over the past 2 years, the department has hired the Western Lake Erie Basin Strategist to help coordinate and plan and implement activities across the basin and at the binational and multi-state levels. We also hired a GIS specialist to help generate and track important spatial data that's being collected in the basin. And as mentioned, we're hiring the water quality specialist and also hiring regenerative agriculture staff that will promote regenerative agricultural principles that you heard about from Jason Roundtree earlier today. We'll continue to support MEEP staff and the conservation specialists that are located in our Western Lake Erie Basin conservation districts. And effective this next month, and maybe something that many of you do not know, MDARD is realigning itself into a bureau structure to better connect programs and expertise and offer an opportunity for cross-collaboration in these kind of key areas of regenerative ag, MEEP, and the Western Lake Erie Basin work. This work, ongoing work, is really important. It's work to improve water quality monitoring, which you've heard a lot about today and is very important as part of that adaptive management process. That's one thing, but engaging agriculture to understand their role in part of the solution to the non-point source challenge that we talked a lot about today is going to be a big focus of our work moving forward. Many of you stood up today when you were asked of being part of the advisory group. We really appreciate your engagement in this process. And as Allison had mentioned at a high level, we've heard a lot from you based on your survey work that you did with her this spring and then our meeting this summer. And two key takeaways that I got from that. And I hope that this conference today helps fill and starts to build some of that trust that I think we were lacking in our process before. And that is providing these kind of opportunities for us to get together, to share ideas, to network, I think is really important. And we hope to continue to build off of that kind of work. And we also heard that you wanted to have an improved, transparent, and accountable process, and that you want to be able to access this information that's statistically significant and meaningful. And so I'm hoping that as we build out our Great Lakes Watershed Management System, you will see your voice there and are able to identify and track our progress moving forward. We are committed to continuing to work with the advisory group through this community partnership and see this as a really more meaningful way to plan and implement our DAP actions and as a fundamental path forward for us achieving our long-term success. I hope you all have a chance to read the panel report that's going to be available on the Water Center's website tomorrow. It's really full of a lot of really great recommendations. And I'd like to kind of highlight a few key things that I've heard that I think are really going to help us achieve our goals in a real tangible way. The first one is that the science panel stated that adaptive management is a more thoughtful approach that allows for understanding the system responses to different interventions and allows relevant management actions to inform decisions by that on the ground understanding. And I think that's really important. We're going to need all of your voices to the table to help us to chart our course forward. But I believe that with our increased capacity, our new modeling and water quality monitoring efforts that you've heard today, we believe that we're moving closer to fully implementing our adaptive management framework. So thank you for your engagement and input and feedback, panelists. You also stated that it was really imperative that we challenge our assumption that more technical and financial assistance is what's needed to get more conservation practices on the ground. You stated that it's imperative to conduct more social science research to better understand how to increase conservation adoption, focus not just on the existing barriers to practice adoption, but also to look for other ways, other interventions, and other engagement opportunities to overcome these barriers. What really resonated with me was enhancing our peer-to-peer farmer networks that we have established and looking for new opportunities, such as doing more co-produced on-farm research, like what you've learned from Asan and Jeremiah today. And we agree with this, and we look forward to looking for those opportunities moving forward. So please share your ideas if you have them, and we'd be very appreciative of that. So finally, just kind of wrapping up, we have lots of QR codes for you. We have one for the Taking Action on Lake Erie page. This is an EGLE website we're maintaining for the DAP. So it's going to be a place, sort of a one-stop shop for keeping up updates with the state, and we'll be posting the DAP update there. The Water Center also has a website. The QR code is in the middle. And then we recently have a MDARD email listserv that we're setting up. So if you're interested in getting email updates from us, please use that QR code. This information will also be available on the conference survey. So we really want to hear how you think this conference went today. And finally, just wrapping up, I just want to say a big thank you to our sponsors here on the screen. But a shout out to the Environmental Support Division of EGLE, who was very instrumental in helping with our logistics. I hope you enjoyed the venue. I think it was a great place, and I hope that we'll be back here next year. So thank you to Adrian College. I want to give a big shout out to Allison Bresler for helping to bring this conference together, facilitate the advisory group and science panel. This wouldn't have been possible without you. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for being here. I hope you have a better sense of what we're up to and where we're going. It's all hands on deck, and so I look forward to hearing from you. And with that, just thank you for attending. Safe travels, happy holidays, and hope to see you again next year.